Today's guest is going to be MelindaVamp, a fierce competitor in Teppen who reached the top 16 of the 2020 World Championship and also had one appearance this last year in the WCS in June. So a fantastic player all around. He also runs a Japanese blog that has a lot of in-depth posts about different various Teppen decks, and that is where we got some of the information for this video from. So you want to check that out. Link will be in the description. And if you can't read Japanese, don't worry, it's nothing a little Google Translate cannot solve. So let's dive in and see MelindaVamp's take on the Purple Black Faith decks that have been running around.
All right, got ourselves a match against Jill. Now, in Melinda's article, he mentioned that you want to stick with cards like Birdie, Josie Kuroda, and April when starting off, just to give you that like a little bit of ways to build faith and buff up your unit. So his opening hand with Satsuki and Birdie is a nice starter, kind of ensuring he can get the Birdie out there for the +1/+2 bonus. And now those faith can kind of start to line up and get into the other units like the Horohoros and the Virgil that have started to fill up the hand. Ooh, and there is a nice use of the double something. The +3/+3, saving the Satsuki, getting an extra 3 damage in on the face, buffing up the Horohoro off the Faith too. Oh my gosh. So now we've got Josie and Horo. So he goes for the Horo. So we're kind of entering this mid-game phase, which I'll talk about later, where we got a little bit of damage in on the opponent. We're going to try to keep that up and see how things go. Dude, these owls, man. If you have not played against the owls, ooh, you are in for some not fun. If you're on the other side of the owl, I'll be completely honest. It is a rough time sometimes dealing with these owls with their -1 damage taken. Ugh, so annoying. So annoying. And the opponent is going hard, really hard, trying to protect that unit. I could not tell you why, but they are taking a lot of flight damage. Now Overpower comes out here, just making use of that blue MP, and just this 2/1 is applying pressure, right? It needs to be blocked. The Hororos also need to be blocked. The Virgil comes down, blasting the 3 costs away immediately. And so now we see Melinda has kind of smelled blood here. The opponent's below 10 HP. They do have a Ryu to deal with the Virgil, but it is, oof, it's going to be rough. It's going to be rough. And we're in the position where one Spike Dive Bomb can seal the deal. That's all it takes at this point. Kind of just waiting for that Horror to go. There we go, buffing it up, 12 HP. I don't think that's going down anytime soon, especially with the negate that Melinda has in hand. And that will do it. Well played.
So here is the full deck list. And let's go over the game plan again here, because I feel like there's a very well thought out game flow. In the beginning, we're looking for certain faith cards that will help us create board presence, pressure the opponent a little bit, but also mainly die so they can buff up our faith unit in hand. And then we transition into this sort of mid-game area where we're going to start mainly using our flying units such as Horo and Fang to really pressure and cut into the opponent's life. And in this stage, we have to be careful about how we're placing our units to help spread the destruction of our opponent and their removal effect. So if we place a buffed up unit into an open lane, that's a pretty easy pick for a removal for the opponent, because they don't even have to like take any less in value because they don't have a unit there to get blocked or whatever. So kind of try to keep that in mind in the mid game. And then in the late game, we've got several different ways to close out the game. You've got using your Spike Dive Bomb Hero Art to blast in extra damage. You've got Virgil, who can ascend to bounce, so you keep your opponent off tempo and get that heavy agility in there. And you've also got Dante, who can get brought down a ton of cost just by his passive effect, potentially a 1 or 2 cost 4/7, which can really apply a lot of extra aggression to your opponent. So you want to pay attention to your opponent's MP so you can decide which one of these closer options is going to be the best to get you that victory. We can also talk a little bit about the key parts of the deck, but we'll keep it sweet because I think they all fit into the game plan pretty well. We've got our action cards, we got 2 negates, we've got 2 overpowered, which can bounce things back to the hand, and we've got a +3/+3 to our faith unit, but it dies after an attack. So these are our utility spells, just providing some disruption for the opponent. The +3/+3 can really help your units live through burn. It's only 1 MP. So that can make a unit survive. It can help you trade into an opponent's unit. It is very, very powerful. If your opponent's also playing seals, they can try to seal. You just get that +3/+3 and you keep it. You don't get the destruction effect. So that is a very powerful interaction that goes in your favor pretty well. And you've got the bounces. So with this meta, there's a lot of dual color going around. So having the ability to bounce a 3-cost unit back to the EX pocket can really help you, navigate some of those tricky buffed units, especially opposing Horo. The negates, of course, if you're purple, you're just run a few negates. It helps out a lot, adds a lot of pressure when your opponent knows you have negates in there. Another really powerful utility card that is Land of Light, which brings back a faith unit. This can bring back a flyer. This can bring back a Satsuki to help you provide pressure. Really just help you keep your board presence up, especially in the face of heavy destruction decks, because you will run into those every now and then. So that's enough about the deck. I've got 2 more replays for you all and some closing thoughts about the change form version of the deck. So stay tuned for all that.
The second match we have from Melinda is going to give you against Sekiya Kuretsuha. Art that I think is getting a little bit more popular lately as people are trying that with all this faith stuff. But again, you're seeing the Aprils being a solid starting play, and those are going to start buffing up the other units in the hand for Melinda. He's following the strategy he laid out. You gotta respect that. And this deck is going to be pretty similar, it looks like. Just keeping the pressure up with the Satsuki. We're in that middle to kind of early phase of the game where we're trying to just pressure the opponent's life total. The Satsuki getting in there for a little bit. The opposing Fang kind of not really doing anything with only 1 HP. And now here is an interesting interaction. Land of Light comes out from the opponent. Melinda does not want that to come into the spot where Satsuki is. He wants to get that 3 damage in. Oh, reluctant initiation, threatening to wipe the field, but Overpower is there. Overpower is there, so another Land of Light that could go in the top or the bottom to block the Satsuki. It does block the Satsuki. Maybe not exactly what Melinda wanted, but he did remove the middle one, so that's going to be a nice 2 damage there. Another 2 up top. Ooh, getting close to an under 20 life total for the opponent. Now, how quickly are we going to try to block here? And I would say now that we're in the under 20, this is kind of where I noticed that Melinda, he tends to switch into the mid game if possible, which means he's trying to threaten the opponent's HP even more with flying units. And we don't have a lot of flyers out here besides the Fang, so we'll see how that plays out. Still waiting, and the Decapre up top, followed by a Sekiya Kuretsuha wiping Melinda's whole field. How is he gonna make a comeback from this? Fang comes out. Crush and Decapre's ability immediately destroys it. What's next? Horo comes out with the dive bomb to keep it alive, but with the crush, it's not doing anything to Decapre. He's just hoping that Decapre will slowly kill itself. And oof. finally taking it out, but Horo gets a nice chunk in there. The opponent already below 10 HP. We're in that final moment. Melinda's looking for that prime moment for him to take the victory, and Takapre comes back out again. It's a heavy investment using the hero art to try to interrupt. He guarantees the win. Well played by Melinda again. And the final match that Melinda has graced us with is going to be Ada Wong Blackout. Purple has definitely kind of gone up the ranks a little bit, especially with Horo, just having a lot of control. Like you see, even in this deck, the overpowereds come in clutch, and they are pretty cheap there. So, yet again, kind of a broken record here, but the Birdies, the Kurodas, the Aprils, setting up for that mid game where the opponent is gonna start taking a lot of pressure from Melinda's flying units, and we would want to get this Mori off the field, so we're not willing to let it get bounced. It's important because it's going to win this trade, provide continued pressure on the field. I imagine this Birdie is going to come out as well on top because, you know, as I noticed before in the previous match, we want to get them to about 20 HP. That's when 20 HP, or when we don't really have a choice, is when Melinda is going to start swapping into the mid-game strategy of utilizing the flyers to pressure down the opponent's life even more. Again, you see there, we could have started going with the flyers already with Fang, but April comes out instead, and now we're in the 20 zone, boys. We're in the 20 zone, boys, and whew, Melinda wastes no time with getting rid of that Horo, okay? No time wasted. Immediately get it out of here. But 20 HP left on our opponent, Ada Wong. But unfortunately, the Faith triggers haven't really gone to the flyers, so we're not really ready for that switch up just yet. We got one on the Horo, so that's going to activate its ability to take less damage, and we're under 20 HP. You saw it right there, under 20 HP, and now the flyers start coming out. This is going to be huge. The Mori goes down, and the Fang is going to get in there for a whopping... Oh, never mind. It is not getting blocked by an unfaithed Horo, unfortunately for the opponent. And the opponent, you know, we're rewinding a little bit, if you guys noticed, made a not-so heads-up play by using Blackout on something other than a Horo, which was pretty rough. And now you can see the flying. You guys see that the flying is just coming into play. The Virgil comes out for the opponent. How is Melinda going to deal with this? With a dive bomb Satsuki. Unfortunately, it is going to trade out there with the agility. Not exactly what we wanted, but sometimes you don't totally get to choose. And says Ada Wong, a little confused there, getting close to that under 10 where Melinda's going to swap to the late game. But oh, look at this, overpowered coming out, going to punish the opponent's decision to take out the not Horo with the hero art, but 8 to domination, trying to steal whatever all the other Horos that are left in Melinda's deck. Oh, which looked like 2. Yikes. Melinda better close this out quickly, or they're gonna deal with some intense Horo action on the opposing side. Let's see how Melinda figures this out. I mean, there's a massive damage lead, getting into that under 10, which is where we're gonna convert into the late game. The late game of looking to close out the game with a spike dive bomb, or adding extra pressure in with the Dante. And there's a spike dive bomb. He knows the block is gonna go through first, and 6 damage straight to the face. Whew. Heads up play from Melinda.
A final note about this deck is that it is really fun to play. I've been playing it a little bit, and it's very versatile. You can change up the cards a lot to kind of suit your preferred play style, and this is also one of the advantages that MelindaVamp has mentioned as well, and he recommends if you have the souls, you want to change the right to Rite of Initiation into Aid of the Missionary, bump that up to a legendary card. It's gonna make your deck so much more powerful. It's gonna be add a nice little power boost to the deck if it wasn't good enough for you already. So that is some good advice from him. Now let's talk about Change Form, because I also played the Change Form variant, and I played a few games with it. You know, maybe not to get enough to get a full grasp, but what I did notice is that the dual color nature of the deck means you keep trying to play units out there, and along with Land of Light, you keep playing units out there, so you've got a lot of blocking going on, and you need to keep playing things out or you just lose out on a lot of MP. It makes it a lot harder to have your life drop. You're kind of like naturally defending your life, and so what I found, it was very hard for me to get down to like below 20 consistently so that I could use my hero art a lot. I even won a few games where I didn't even use the hero art. It just kind of like, he was dominant enough that I didn't need to use the hero art, and I couldn't actually use the hero art. So I really think that this Spike Die Bomb version is the way to go, at least for this setup. Maybe there's a different setup of the deck that could want to take a little bit more damage. Maybe you play more 5 costs, so then you have more like leeway with you play something, they play other things, you take some damage, and then you get Change Form online. There could be things like that. I haven't explored them, but for now, stick with the Spike Die Bomb. You will not be disappointed. And as we always do on the channel, keep on learning, having some fun with me, Durian, playing some Teppen, and I'll see you around. Peace.